there's this psychopath known as the COVID welder who's planning to ruin my reputation, and he hopes to make me look like a monster in front of my viewers. Is there any way you can help me? Well, alrighty then. Thank you. I'll be sure to call you guys back. Bye. Oh, hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. So, if you guys were wondering who I was calling, well, I was only trying to see if I can get some backup in case the COVID welder ever confronts me again. Just when I thought setting him on fire would be enough to stop him. Anyway, before I get started, I'd like to talk about a very special person whom I've known while I was studying at Saddleback College. Her name is Sophia Isali, and despite the fact that I lost touch with her after graduation in 2014, ever since I met her, I thought she was a really sweet and nice person. Plus, I really loved having conversations with her, and there were also a few times where we were paired up during certain class assignments. Also, one of my favorite memories with her was when I took her to see Wicked at the Segerstrom, and there were also a couple times where she invited me to see a movie with her. And the film that I'm going to be blogging today is the very first movie that I watched with her in theaters. So let's get started. Released on March 15th, 2013, the movie is The Call. Now, on for the plot of the movie. Jordan, a veteran operator for an emergency call center, saves lives daily as part of her job. But when a young woman's frantic report of a prowler ends tragically, Jordan becomes devastated. 6 months later, she decides to pack it in on the front lines and instead teach others the ropes of the high-pressure job. But when a call from a kidnapped teen named Casey comes in, Jordan decides to take charge as never before and turns the girl into a partner in helping to save her life. So, what do I think? Well, in my eyes, this movie was very heart-pounding, as well as thrilling and suspenseful. And I'm really glad that Sophia invited me to see it with her in theaters at the time. But now, let's move on to Mustang notes. Screenwriter Richard D. Ovidio was inspired to write the story after his wife heard an NPR segment with a 911 operator discussing her job. He began to research the subject, and he visited the Los Angeles Metropolitan Communications Dispatch Center, or MCDC for short. Finding the center, which has backup generators, bulletproof windows, and a moat surrounding the building to be pretty amazing, he decided to shed light on what he viewed as a previously overlooked occupation. The story was originally conceptualized as a TV series titled The Hive, a reference to the constant calls and conversations sounding like bees buzzing. But Dio Video decided to redraft it as a film on realizing that the operators couldn't be the ones kicking in doors and going out into the field all the time. As a result, what was planned to be a pilot episode was expanded and revised as a movie. With a crew of roughly 120 people, filming took place a total of 25 days, spanning from July to August 2012, with all scenes being shot in the Los Angeles County in California. Car chase scenes were shot at Long Beach, and a Westlake Village office building was modeled as the Emergency Dispatch Center. Other filming locations include the Burbank Town Center on Magnolia Boulevard in Burbank, along with Santa Clarita and the 170 Highway. Also to note, the film was directed by Brad Anderson, and to this very day, The Call is currently the most successful WWE-produced movie ever made so far. Now, from what I can remember, My experience seeing The Call in theaters back in 2013 was very thrilling. While watching it, not only were my eyes glued to the screen, but there were also times where I was on the edge of my seat. Also, the look of the LAPD 911 dispatch center looks really cool, and I like that, like most businesses, including Target that I currently work at, everyone in that hive works as a team while helping whoever calls them. Plus, I thought the cinematography was handled absolutely excellently, whether being shot on the highways, freeways, or aerial shots. Also, I like the scenes where a couple witnesses help the dispatch center track down or identify the kidnapper. Plus, I think the score by John Debney is very, very interesting. You see, unlike the other films that he composed with an orchestra, the film's score is completely filled with dark and intense electronic and synthesized elements. And now, let's move on to the film's cast. The main protagonist, Jordan Turner, is played by Halle Berry, whom I remember from the X-Men franchise, the James Bond film Die Another Day, 2004's Catwoman, and Blue Sky's Robots. Jordan is a veteran 911 dispatcher in Los Angeles who answers 911 emergency calls to help people and get emergency support for them. At the beginning of the movie, Jordan receives a call from a victim named Leah Templeton, and she tries to help her from being hunted down and killed by an insane serial killer. But sadly, Leah was caught and killed. 6 months later, while training some new 911 operators, Jordan tries to help a kidnapped victim named Casey Wilson. To me, Jordan is a very smart woman, and I think she gives great advice to anyone who calls her. While she did fail to save Leia, I like that Jordan is determined to help Casey no matter what. And after finding out that the kidnapper, Michael Foster, was the same psycho who killed Leia, Jordan decides to take matters into her own hands and rescue Casey on her own. Next is Casey Wilson, played by Abigail Breslin, whom was in The Princess Diaries 2, Air Buddies, Nim's Island, 2011's New Year's Eve, the Zombieland films, and Rango. While on her way home from a Fashion Plaza mall, Casey got abducted and forced into the trunk of a red Toyota Camry LE. Thankfully, even though her phone was broken, Casey uses her friend Autumn's disposable phone and calls 911 for help. Unfortunately, because of her use of said disposable, her exact GPS location cannot be found, which makes it pretty hard for Jordan and the other 911 operators to track her. In my eyes, I think Casey is a beautiful and brave teenage LA girl, and while being trapped in a car's trunk, she follows Jordan's instructions in hopes to escape from her captor. One of the smartest things that Casey does is knock out the tail light, wave her arm out to signal people in nearby cars, and pour white paint out of the taillight hole. Also to note, I find it pretty interesting that Casey is a Capricorn like Jordan, which means that she's a fighter, and her favorite movie is Bridesmaids. Plus, I think Casey and Jordan not only make a great team, but they also make great BFFs. Plus, I thought it was pretty sweet that Jordan promises to take Casey to the movies during the following weekend after she's rescued. Finally, we have the film's main villain, Michael Foster, played by Michael Eklund, whom was in Arrow, Bates Motel, Poker Night, and Alcatraz. As mentioned earlier, Foster is the guy responsible for killing Leah Templeton at the beginning of the movie, and he kidnaps Casey Wilson. The thing that I find very twisted and messed up regarding Foster is that he had a sexual relationship with his sister, Melinda, who eventually died of cancer, leaving Michael grieving and severely disturbed. As an adult, he stalks attractive teenage girls who bear a resemblance to Melinda. He kidnaps them and he surgically removes their hair. This hair was apparently used to reconstruct Melinda, though he struggles to find the right scent in each hair that matches his deceased sister's. Now, that info kind of makes Foster like a mix of Richard Fenton from 2008's Prom Night, Robert Turner from Disturbia, and Jason Voorhees from the 2009 Friday the 13th movie. Plus, not only is Foster a mentally insane doctor, but he's also very brutal when he kills anyone who gets in his way, like a motorist named Alan Donato and a gas station attendant named Jose. Also, while he was smart to cover his tracks by switching vehicles, he wasn't smart enough to cover his fingerprints, which is how the LAPD managed to identify him. Plus, I think his underground lair, which is actually the basement of a burnt down house, is really, really creepy. And now on to my final words. Overall, The Call was a very thrilling movie. The plot is interesting but heart-pounding. The cinematography is handled excellently. The road scenes are very thought-provoking and intense. The main characters, Jordan and Casey, are relatable and sympathetic at times. The team members at the LAPD dispatch center are pretty good supporting characters. The villain is a mentally insane and brutal psychopath, and the musical score by John Debney really had me on the edge of my seat. Now, while I am glad to have seen this movie in theaters with Sophia, I don't really recommend this movie for anybody under the age of 17 though. But on the other hand, for those of you who are over that age limit, if you do like psychological crime thrillers or films with intense road chases, then be sure to give it a watch. As for my rating, I'll give it a 73% out of 100. Well, that's all for now, folks. Be sure to join me for my next blog, where we look at the newest film adaptation starring the boy who never grows up, Mustang Power.